One of my favorite things to work with is burl. Now, burl isn't a type of wood. For those who don't know what it is, it's a growth on the tree that's abnormal and not supposed to be there. Kind of like how cancer is to humans, a burl is cancer to a tree. But it creates gorgeous, gorgeous wood, and it's highly sought after by woodworkers. So here's an example of a maple burl here, a chunk of it at least. And you'll see on the growth, when you see on the outside of the tree, it creates all of these spiky sections on the live edge. And then it has, when you cut into it, this just gorgeous grain pattern. What's really cool about this is it's very, very unique to every tree, and it creates some of the most gorgeous wood in my opinion. What's difficult about it though, however, is when the bark is included in here or other dirt and other stuff in it, it's really hard to get this off without damaging the spiky parts of the tree. So I have an idea and a solution to fix that. Let's get it. And here it is. This big box is from my friends over at Vevor. I reached out to Vevor when I saw this on their website. Now, they make tool manufacturers. However, this specific tool is made for dentist's office. Now, what does a dentist office and a woodworking shop have in common, you might ask? Other than a lot of pain and tears and screams, not much. But I think this tool is going to solve my burl issue. So let's go ahead and get it unboxed. And here we are, my friends. This is the Twin Pen Sandblaster from Vevor. Now, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to start working with this. Now, I've got my test burl. I've put it in here. We're going to test it, but I want to talk about this before I go into my sanding. So, first of all, it's got dual reservoirs. This is where you put your sand material. It does come with some 220 grit sand, so I went ahead and put that in both chambers. This container filled both chambers. You're only supposed to fill it halfway to allow the pressure to evaluate properly. So I went ahead and did that. Now, the pressure regulator is right here. You push down and twist it. I went ahead and turned it all the way up to the max because I'm going to be sanding wood and not doing some fine jewelry sanding or dental sanding. This button right here is the reverse control. This is how you switch between the two pens, because one reservoir equals one pen, the other reservoir is the other pen. So you would pop that to switch between the two pens. There's a foot pedal that I'm using that the air goes into, and that's the valve that turns this on and off. So this button over here is just the power button for the light. I can turn that on and off. And by the way, that light is very bright. It's going to be plenty illumination in here. So that foot pedal turns on the sanding. Now, I did a quick test with it. I just ran it quick dry, and I noticed that I get about a minute of pressure before my sanding before my air compressor turns on. I only have a 2-gallon air compressor, so it's a very small one, which means this isn't using a ton of air, so it's doing a lot of work in that bit before my air compressor even needs to turn on, which I'm excited about. The footprint for the unit is 16 by 15, so it's pretty small, which is exactly what I was looking for. The window area is about 12 inches wide that you can put your workpiece through. The gloves for the unit are actually a very good size for me. I have large hands and I was worried about them being too small, but they fit perfectly for me. If you have small hands, you might want to swap out the gloves. Ergonomically, this unit is really great. I can slide my hands in from either side of the unit, resting my arms on the bench. The unit does have a dust collection port. I'm not using it because I don't have a dedicated vacuum for this unit, and I'm going to collect the media afterwards to reuse it. The unit snaps closed and has a really squishy gasket, which provides a really nice airtight seal. Now, the cover is actually glass, which it does worry me that it will get scratched over time with the media, so I would recommend putting a screen protector on this if you can. So let's go ahead and give it a test, which, since this is sanding, I guess that means it's time for this week's Sanding Thoughts with Duffey Woodcraft. The very first documented UFO sighting dates back to 1801, and on average, the world sees 170,000 UFO sightings every single year. And even though they come in many different shapes and sizes, they're almost always called flying saucers. Did you know where that name comes from? It comes from a businessman named Kenneth Arnold, who claimed to see 9 high-speed crescent-shaped objects near Mount Rainier in Washington state. He described them as saucers skipping across water. The term stuck in the newspapers, and that became the most popular term for flying saucers or UFOs today. Well, that was fantastic. First of all, this is super satisfying to sand with. Just being able to watch it blow away is so cool. I've never done sandblasting before, so that was super fun. Now, for my little small piece here, it took care of all of the dirt and grime really easily. The bark I had to flick away with the pen a little bit so that the sanding media would get underneath it and then loosen it and have it flip away. It took me about 10 minutes to do this piece to get it completely clean. I also did this much larger piece as well. This was about the max size, so you can see it through my face, that I'm gonna get in here. So this one took about 30 minutes, and the majority of that time, unfortunately, was waiting for my air compressor to refill. So I need a bigger air compressor to be able to do larger pieces like this without having to wait for it to fill in between times. But it worked really great. So let's go ahead and make one of my UFOs with this. First, I'll go ahead and cut out the UFO on the CNC, and then I'll take the base, the burl that we're using, and I'll cut out a section for the electrical. Once it's off of the CNC, I'll bring it over and sand everything up to 220 grit, and then it's time to do the electricals. I wire this so it's a plug-in along with an on and off switch, and then I'll solder everything together. I'm using some really bright green LEDs, which is going to look really good with the laser UFO beam, and then I mix up some epoxy to hold that beam or acrylic rod in place to connect the UFO and the base. Finally, it's a quick spray with some deft satin spray lacquer, and the project's all done. So, my overall thoughts of the Vevor Twin Pen Sandblaster. I think it is a great little machine for my small shop, and for the limited amount of sandblasting I'm going to be doing. This is a great hobbyist tool. It is not designed for woodworking, but it's going to work perfectly for the scenario that I need it in. So with the burls that I was showing you guys, another good example would be getting some burrs and some of the fine sanding that needs to happen off of 3D carves that come off the CNC, or topography trays, for example. If they can fit in here, then I would be able to do that with some of the smaller items. So that would help out my sanding quite a bit. If you're going to be doing a production run or doing a lot of things, I would suggest getting a larger sandblasting cabinet. Vevor does make one, so you can check out their website. There's a link to this product down in my description below, so if you're interested in it, there's an affiliate link down there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another project video, and until then, bye-bye.